Are.
Excellent. Welcome, everyone, to episode 6 of Manny and Kai Presents. Now, this week, since it's our final podcast of 2023, I feel like it's a good time to just kind of take it easy a little bit and not devote an hour to one topic, but rather just a whole bunch of different topics, whatever comes across naturally. And once again, we're joined by our friend, Nicrowassassin. And
Ah,
now, before we really begin, there's something I really feel I need to get off my chest. So, if we can talk a little bit about last week's episode and my mental state right before and during the episode and coming out of it. For me personally, now I haven't seen the whole thing all the way through yet, just the first maybe 10 minutes. But just full disclosure for anyone who may have felt as the way I did that the vibe was kind of off on my part. So minutes, Kai can vouch for me on this. Like 10 minutes before we started last week, I got a phone call, and it was really like legitimately bad news, like a medical emergency about a close family member. So going into that, and I had the opportunity, it was like, well, do you want to postpone or something? And I didn't want to do that because it had already been planned out. But it really was the first time since we started this that I actually came out of an episode not feeling good about it. Every other time I've been like, dude, that was great. We kind of killed it, man. This was great. But like, I've even had people that have watched it who were completely unaware of like the bad news telling me it was good. So I hope when I eventually do watch the rest of it, I'll feel a little bit better about it. But like coming into this one, I still kind of feel like I let myself down. I let the podcast down because of last week.
I thought it was really good, very entertaining, and like I had mentioned that to you. But yeah, when you get the chance, you'll see as well. It was fine. But I know how it can feel when you think it's kind of relates back to that imposter syndrome a little bit in terms of the where you think that others maybe, or maybe you self-doubt yourself a little bit and think you didn't do as well as you wanted to do. It's kind of really what that was about, and I can say
Sure.
that you did just fine. So.
Well, I hope so. But that was something that's kind of weighed on me all week since we did that. And I kind of wanted to address that right here, right now. Like, yeah, that bothered me. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So again, it's a free form here, so we're going to kind of talk about a few different topics. Let's see. I guess we'll just go one by one, I suppose. Manic, do you want to start first? I'll add something in, and Nicrowassassin. I don't know how to pronounce your username. Still, I'm working.
Nicrowassassin.
Nicrowassassin. There we go. Okay.
Nicrowassassin.
Nicrowassassin. There's the W in there. I think that's messing me up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
Yeah. It's
A silent W.
No, it's Nicro, as in Nicro. And then when I was making the name, I
like
forgot
the
to put
bird.
the hyphen.
I gotcha.
Nicrowassassin.
Okay.
Just when I made the name, I forgot to put
Honestly.
the hyphen, and I can't change it now. So
Okay.
I thought that was a typo all the time.
So I guess just consider the W as silent.
So, Nick, oh, sure.
no, it's Crow.
So,
Nicro.
Oh, okay.
Assassin.
Okay. Well,
Got
thanks
it.
for clearing that up now. Nicrowassassin. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
So the first topic that I have, it's really more for myself and Kai here. Nick, you can chime in if you'd like. But what is our favorite and least favorite things about being content creators?
Well, for me, I do enjoy creation. I try to really get something. For me, it's like hanging out on a couch and passing the controller back and forth, playing some games together. But I also like to create things that are useful. Like I do cooking videos, and if someone can take something out of that and say, "Oh, I want to try this meal," especially if it's an easy meal, well, that to me, I enjoy that. Things I don't like, well, if there's not a good deal of reciprocation, meaning if people don't really tune in, that bothers me. And Manic, I know
Right.
you said in the past that's something you really shouldn't let bother you. You
Sorry
really
about
shouldn't
that.
compare yourself to others in terms of larger streamers and jealousy, but I can't help it, you know? So that's something
Well,
for
I
me
mean, I
that
can't
bothers me.
either to a point.
Yeah. So that's something that bothers me. So,
So for myself, I'll start with my least favorite thing, which is the amount of time it takes to actually prepare
oh, yes.
a Twitch stream.
Oh, yes.
I probably, no exaggeration, I probably have spent more time preparing to stream than I have actually streaming in my life.
Right.
There's so much prep work. You don't even think about it. Like for the viewer, the average viewer, like just
They
like
don't
making
see any of the
graphics or
No.
the
pre-work.
back end stuff. No,
Well,
not at
some
all.
people will like
And
do
I've
a
spent
starting soon and like show what they're doing to get ready, but Manic, I agree with you. It takes anywhere from 30 minutes sometimes to 45 minutes. It just depends on what you're doing, what you're setting up. But yes.
And depending also on your internet, where you're at, if your internet wants to be fucky wucky, guess what? You could end up taking an hour just to get started.
Yeah.
fuck you, Wucky, he says. Yeah, like no, I mean there's so much work involved that I don't think the average viewer on Twitch, the non-streamer contingent,
Oh,
even considers
Right.
well,
until you do it, and then you realize,
they're not going to be able to be aware of everything just on the general level.
Well, some
Because
people. Go ahead. Sorry, Nick.
no, you're good. I'm just saying, just because of the lack of, like, again, it comes to that connection. We don't actually have a connection with these people, but we think we do. But all we're seeing is what they present to us,
What
and
they
that's
perceive.
and yeah, and that becomes their reality. They perceive, oh, they could do this, so let's make sure we keep expecting this, and then it keeps adding more pressure.
Right.
that's a
Well,
great
some people will just like
segue.
use their console
So
and.
that actually goes.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. It's that pesky delay again.
Yes, it is. I know. I've been
That's a
noticing
good
that.
segue to my favorite thing.
Okay.
So, my favorite thing about, at least doing Twitch is actually the social aspect of it, the outreach. When you do have an audience of people in chat that are into it and invested, and not just the game, but you as the host. Like, for example, about 4.5 years ago, I did that whole big Shenmue marathon.
Right.
And, this was leading up to number 3. And I would do 1 and 2, the remasters, over. I think I did that like 8 times in 1 year, that one calendar year. And no, like I would hands down say that was probably my most successful time period, because the hype for that game was so high that
it still
every
is.
time I would play it,
Still
I'd get
is.
more and more people.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I kind of miss it, but at the same time, I'm all Shenmue'd out. I don't think I want to play that game again for another few years at least.
Well,
But it was fun.
The
It was a lot of
Yakuza series.
fun.
Yakuza?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, the Yakuza series.
Yeah.
I followed a few of them. I didn't start at the very beginning. I think I jumped in on like the 3rd game or 4th game. I can't remember. But I really just don't feel like touching this new one that's coming out, where they're focused on being in Hawaii.
Oh, that's interesting. Hawaii.
Yeah, so they switched from the main character to this new character in the last game, and they're continuing his story.
Oh.
And I'm just like, they get to continue, but this isn't for me.
Do you fear that the series will jump the shark because of that shift from is it Kiryu, the main character?
Yeah, no, because if they would have messed up with the last game. I can trust that they're going to do it well. It's just I don't feel like following it anymore. I sort of have series fatigue with that series.
Yeah, so I've done Yakuza 0. I'm not
totally
sure about
that
one. So
that's the only one that I have played.
Okay, so yeah, I played that one on PlayStation 4 only for like an hour, and I haven't touched it since. But I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's the only one I've actually finished.
It's a fun game series, and if you're into that series, it's really worth getting into. It's just I got sort of tired of it, and I just like, okay, it's time for me to like hyper focus on something else. And then Warhammer. Oh God,
Oh, wow. Yeah. Do people still play that game?
yes,
Wow.
dude. Like Warhammer has exploded over this past year because they just released their newest edition for the tabletop game, which is huge. They just came out with a new mobile game that's doing really well. They have that what was it that was made by Fat Shark that did the Vermintide series.
I
That had a
no
that
idea.
had a new game. Warhammer's doing really well this year.
Yeah, I remember that was really big, like in 2015-16 on PlayStation 4 is where I first experienced it. But
Yeah,
there's a
that
lot
would
of
be around the
DLC, so.
Vermintide.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that would be the Vermintide. That's basically Warhammer's Left 4 Dead.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
And Vermintide 2 did really, really well. And so the same creators, Fat Shark, I think, has gone and done another game in that style, but for the actual sci-fi setting, not the fantasy setting.
Oh, nice. I like both of those genres. Very much so, sci-fi and fantasy. And
See,
also,
I'm
what's
more
really the
into
difference? What's the difference between sci-fi and fantasy, do you think?
Okay, so
Oh, well, I can probably answer that.
Okay.
At least my
sci-fi
own
focuses on the
definition is
philosophical understanding between the nature between man and everything that's around man, including, well, sci-fi generally has a lot more existential dread added on top of all that type of stuff, while
Okay.
fantasy is more of the heroic adventure trope.
Okay.
Whether you set that in a high fantasy setting with like elves, dragons, and magic, or a low fantasy urban setting like um,
The
Percy
Last of
Jackson, but
Us.
without the magic, I know that something like that exists.
Would you say The Last of Us is fantasy or science fiction?
The Last of Us is an interesting series because that is a post-apocalyptic zombie version. So in a way, it can be fantasy, but at the
That's what I
same
think too.
time, it can be science fiction if they go into the science behind the zombies a bit
Or
more.
the
I
cordyceps.
don't think that. Yeah, that's what they are.
Yeah.
The fungus thingies.
So
The
you can
problem
actually eat
with most
cordyceps.
sci-fi. Yeah, the problem with most sci-fi is they don't really explain a lot of their technobabble, or they don't have enough technobabble to make it sound plausible.
So would you say
They
Star
just
Wars and Star Trek are science fiction?
no. Star Wars is science fantasy,
Oh, okay.
while Star Trek is actual science fiction.
Ah,
I agree with that.
okay.
The
Yeah.
biggest difference between Star Wars and Star Trek is Star Trek chose to focus on more of the micro level of the cosmology and had more of a urban trail go as we head along the issues that pop along on a spaceship. They're more focused on what affects the people that are around them essentially, but they never face the consequences of it on a regular basis because they can something on the move. Star Wars is a fantasy adventure.
Seems like your
Science
voice
means
is sped up a little bit. Is that just me?
Yeah, it's kind of getting garbled. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like it's like fast forwarded.
Mm. Yeah, it's still kind of bad.
All right.
It's fine now.
There
how
we
much
go.
of that did
Yeah,
you
it's
hear?
fine now.
Yeah, for a moment there it
How
sounded
much of
like
that did you hear?
fast forwarding.
About the first
Okay.
half of it we heard.
Yeah.
Okay. TLDR, Star Trek focuses on interpersonal relationships on a spaceship where they don't have to face huge consequences, but they can keep moving forward, and they have enough time to move through the technobabble and have a pace where the science doesn't have to meet necessarily full realistic standards, but in a moment where you're just going through the paces and you're enjoying what you're seeing, yeah, the science can make sense as long as you're just not thinking about it too hard.
Right.
Sci-fi, the Star Wars is a fantasy adventure story with science being its dressing. Science has nothing to do with this story really at all. It's just fantasy and trade regulations.
By the way, Star Trek, the Borg or whatever, is on YouTube for free right
Borg.
now. I don't know if you noticed that or not. I was watching it the other day. Pretty good movie. It's from the 90s.
Yeah,
I'll have to
the
watch that
problem
again.
with the
It's been years.
Yeah.
the problem with Star Trek is they don't know how to write Star Trek.
Yeah?
They dudes, they have fudged up the Star Trek storylines so
Well,
bad.
you can kind of argue the same thing with Star Wars too, if you account the more recent ones.
No, okay,
Just
well,
saying.
yes and no, but the okay. So
I'm more a fan of the prequels.
Star Trek has always had this sort of air of disagreement when it came to when the next series starts. So, like when Star Trek ended and they wanted to bring in a whole new series, and they decided to do the Next Generation. A whole bunch of fans said that you can't have Star Trek if it ain't Spock, McCoy, and Shatner, and everybody's like, oh.
Yeah.
But then after the first season, because again, the first season of the Next Generation is awful, except for the last episode with Q. But they gave it a chance, and they started writing, and it became better, and it became a global household. And their biggest good thing that they included with the Next Generation was the Borg. The bad thing that they did is they fucked up the Borg. They can't seem to keep the Borg straight within their own timelines, and they like to change it up every 2 seconds. First, there was no such thing as the Borg Queen. It was just the Borg was this unconscious collective of all the technologically advanced people that had been hijacked into the Borg's collective, right? The Borg was the technology that consumed control over the people. That's why they was able to spread. They didn't care for individuals. That's why if they came across an individual ship that had like maybe 1 to 2 people on it, they ignored that. But if they came across a galactic ship like the Enterprise that had major technological advancement, they're going to investigate that. But that all changed when Locutus and the Queen got involved, and it fucked up with the Borg the entire way throughout the rest of the series. And they still haven't been able to do it right.
Very good opinion on it. I still, nevertheless, I'm not very huge into Star Trek. I'm more of a Star Wars fan, but I can say I'm gonna have to watch the Borg again and pay a little bit better attention to it. Take into consideration some of your critiques on it and see kind of how this correlate there.
Well, see, the problem is that you're not going to be able to tell just by the viewing of that movie. Yes, you'll be able to see some issues if you have some background knowledge of the Borg and how they were treated. But in order to understand how royally they fucked up the Borg, you have to understand what it means for the Borg to exist in Star Trek from when their inception to how they got treated throughout the series.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they really like to fuck up with their storylines with the Borg. They couldn't keep a straight story. And I know that they eventually tried to say that there's a multiverse and that certain things aren't canon in this timeline, but they are in this timeline. But fuck that shit.
Seems like you quite enjoy Star Wars and Star Trek. You know quite a bit about it. That's cool. I don't know that much about it.
Up on Star Trek.
Okay.
And Star Wars. And
nice.
Not so much like Battlestar Galactica, but I am trying to get more into that. But it's hard.
Oh, I like that one too. I remember watching the TV
stuff.
Series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I can't sort of find the original series that the sci-fi series that came out afterwards is a sequel of, but I sort of want to get into that full series.
Right. Okay. I'm gonna grab another beer. We're already 20 minutes in, believe it or not, so we have another 40 minutes. Crap. What other topics do we want to touch on? Yeah, it goes by quick. So,
well, Kai, did you pitch a topic yet?
Yeah. So, let me grab a beer. I think I'm gonna just touch on There's one that, well, I have three different topics, but for the sake of something that you guys could both contribute to, I would say there's probably one that I'll put past on this stream that I think both of you
Okay.
could maybe have an idea of. But let me just grab a beer real quick, and I'll go ahead and add my add my idea here. It's something I think you can both have an opinion for.
Okay. Sounds
All
good.
right.
And whatever we don't touch upon tonight, whatever's in our notes, we could absolutely come back to in the future and flesh out in a future
yeah.
episode.
Have
Yeah,
like
there's
the last Friday.
really
of
All right.
every
concrete
month.
So I thought I had turned off the freaking follow alerts, but I turned off all of the like visuals, but I just heard an audio come through, which is Beavis and Butthead laughing. So yeah, that's what it was. And I thought I had turned off the audio for it, but I guess not. That's another one of the
Yeah.
follow bots.
Oh, that's fine.
I added a
Good.
bot just to take those follow bots away, but damn it, they're annoying as hell. And I don't know who's doing it. I don't know if it's automatic. But anyways, the topic that I have, like I said, I have three of them, but for the sake of this stream, I think this is a good one that you will both have an opinion on. Determinism versus free will. And so I'm a believer in free will.
Oh,
And I say that all reality is constructed within a contextual framework, but it can be modified and manipulated via free choice. And you can also look at quantum physics and the observer and the wave collapse and Schrodinger's cat. The cat's neither alive nor dead until an observer looks at it. So that's determinism versus free will. And like I says, that's just the one thing I'll add for this. But what do you guys think about that? Determinism versus free will. Is everything baked like a loaf of bread and we have absolutely no choice in the matter? Or can we manipulate and make choices? What do you think?
it's actually fascinating that you bring this up because just this morning I got in this exact conversation with a coworker of mine, and we both pretty much agree there is no such thing as fate. Air quotes, fate. It's all left up to the person. I mean, obviously there are external factors to consider there, but by and large, we are in control of our own destinies, whether we like it or not. And of course, there's other like rabbit holes you could go down there with spirituality and
Sure.
various but I mean, yeah, I absolutely believe in free will.
What's that, Nick?
Oh, you're getting kind of garbled again there, Nick.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like
We
it's
didn't get any of that.
it's a little bit of a fast forwarding. I'm not quite sure. It's a weird thing, but it seems like your voice fast forwards like somebody presses fast forward on a VCR tape or something.
Yeah, that's exactly what it
Yeah.
sounds like.
Okay. Now I'm back.
There you go.
There we go. There we go. Excellent.
So I do have one quick thing I want to say. There really isn't so much as a difference, is that yes, we are all within this giant bubble. We are free to do whatever we want to within the bubble.
But how do
But
we
I
know that
believe
those
we have
choices
to
are our own, though? How do we know if that's the case?
Faith.
If it's determinism, that means that our experiences, our emotions, are not even our own. We don't even experience.
We were determined to exist. That doesn't mean it shows how we get to exist. We choose our everyday lives. We choose what we want to do. That doesn't mean just because the person gave us the choice, they choose which choice we have.
But how do we know that?
That's not for us to know. We are mortal. We're not supposed to know what's beyond this.
Right.
Our minds can't comprehend that.
Well,
said.
for me, I'm a believer in free will, but I have a friend that is very much a believer in determinism. And essentially, I become very depressed when I think about that because, like I said, if it's determinism, if it's a baked loaf of bread, if you will, not even our emotions are our own because they're destined to occur. So that means that you can't even experience an emotion or a feeling because it's hard to even make sense because
No, determination just says a thing will come to existence. It doesn't say how or when it will exist.
well,
Just
determinism
because
is like it.
determination says emotion should exist doesn't mean how or when it will express itself in that way. It
Well,
just says
yeah,
this has to exist because we believe it exists. Therefore, but it doesn't show us how it exists, why it exists, or how it's being expressed when it's being expressed.
well, determinism is kind of like a loaf of baked bread. So you can see everything because it's there. It's baked in, if that makes sense.
You can
So
see the surface until you cut into it. But even
that's
then, you
true.
can't see
That's a
everything.
very good way to put it. I really like that. You can see the surface until you cut into it.
Yeah, me too.
Very good
Dude.
way to put that. I like that.
Yeah.
The surface will always look different from the inside. The insides are chaotic jumble of nonsense. The outside what makes it look pretty.
So it seems as though
Like
you
I
both
said,
are a subscriber to free will.
I'm a subscriber of free will, but I also accept that there is a level of determination within the universe. Because if there wasn't, we wouldn't exist.
That's exactly how I feel. We
Right.
plan things. There's a way that everything it's planned, but we ultimately have a choice to manipulate things, our actions, our beliefs, how we think, that type of
this is
thing.
how I answer. Well, what about the whole omnipotence and God thing? It's like God knows all. He just doesn't know what we're going to do until we decide to do it.
That's actually another topic that I was going to touch on tonight, but like I says, I'll leave that for another time. But I believe in God in a different way than most theological beliefs. But essentially, we're all from the same source. We're all from it, but simultaneously at the same time, we are all of it. We're all the source. Everything is, living or not. So it's a very trippy
I'm going through the
belief.
most intense. Oh, sorry. I'm
Yeah.
going through the most intense, like, deja vu because I really did have this exact conversation
Yeah.
just this morning, like 12 hours ago.
Wow.
Well, if you look at the language we
Yeah.
had to use, it ends up becoming this sort of pseudo-religious talk, regardless of whether you want to take it in that way or not. It ultimately comes down to how do you personally view the world?
How do you interpret
is your
it?
mindset?
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Are you a glass half full, or are you a pessimist? Are you a narcissist? Are you an outgoing person? Do you
Right.
deeply care, or do you deeply feel hatred for everything? Your outlook will determine how you feel. Determination, free will, they're ultimately the same thing.
Well,
Your
and
choices create your fate.
it's been scientifically proven that brainwaves they have energy, and that this is kind of a pseudoscientific law of attraction and whatnot. But you're very right about that. Your perceptions literally shape your reality. So what you see and what you perceive is going to be a little bit slightly different than how others might perceive it. Indeed. So
Yeah, because the internal monologue in your head is going to be vastly different from the internal monologue in my head.
right.
Right.
And if you don't have an internal monologue, you're what we call an NPC.
Well said.
All right. Let's see. So that was mine. We're already at 30 minutes, guys. We're breezing through. So, Manic, do you want to go next? And then Nick, do you want to touch on mythology?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Manic, do you want to go first, or Nick? Manic, you'll go first.
My topic. Yeah, I'll go first.
Okay.
So my topic really isn't so much of a question or a discussion as it is sort of diving into, because this is the end of 2023, sort of the year in review, so to speak. And because I've went through a pretty intense emotional journey. Sorry, my dog is causing a scene. No, like, sort of this year was one of the more informative years to me because, like, I've talked about this kind of in the past a little bit, but like one of the really like big dives I did was finally doing stand-up comedy for the first time.
Right.
And I've only been doing this maybe 2 months, 3 months, and toward the end of this podcast, I'll tell a very true story about the most recent time, and this story also like goes into topics like imposter syndrome and more the general discomfort that I have about doing this and putting myself out there. But no, like I'm not kidding when I say like this may have been one of the best decisions I've ever made,
Mm-hmm.
just because there's a lot going on in the old noggin here. And I never really, truly, I mean, Twitch helped to a degree, but that was also like focused more on like entertaining, playing a game rather than having more in-depth conversations and telling stories and things like that. It's more, yeah, like this really did become an outlet for me to really like put a lot of that stuff out there and be like trying to work it out. Both, saying it out loud is an important thing, but also having the audience feedback. And, I've gotten a lot of really good feedback from doing this. I mean,
Right.
I haven't bombed yet. I imagine that day's going to come. But when, the very first time I went to, I'm not going to say the name of the town, but it's about 3 hours away from my hometown. So I did that specifically because I had this like hair up my ass. Like I've done local gigs, I've done open mic nights, but there was no like way for me to really know that I was doing the right thing until I did it. And so I went out and I did this one gig about a month ago, maybe a month and 2 weeks ago, something like that. That really changed my perspective. And I've since gone back, and that's what the story that I'm going to tell later dives into.
Sure.
But really,
we'll save 10 minutes for that. For you to tell your story, and 5 for to wind out with.
Sure. Okay, so really the point of me bringing this up is, are there any things in both of your lives that you feel was worthwhile to that extent? Is there anything that you wish you could do? Like, maybe not necessarily comedy, but some sort of outlet, any interest that you may have that may actually help better yourself.
Well, I have a response to that.
Physically.
I have a response to that. For me, this year has been a year of growth. It has been a year of getting things done that I've been putting off. So for me, I'm doing my degree for health sciences, and I'm very proud of that. And I want to pursue a health science writer position, where I essentially talk about, objective health sciences, but also homeopathic sciences. But I've also done a lot of other things in my life that I won't speak on the stream because it's personable. But in terms of just improving my standing, improving my life, and it's things I've been putting off. But for me, that's one thing that I have really improved upon and I'm very proud of. And Nick, what about you?
Honestly, joining a group to where I can have a discussion and have an actual intellectual discussion about whether it be on an actual streaming service or Twitch or whatever. That doesn't necessarily matter in its own right, but I would have liked to have gotten more into the Twitch and YouTube side of things and able to actually get a thing going with that. But
do you have Twitch or YouTube or?
I have access to those things.
Well, I mean, like do you stream on them is what I mean.
No, I am fully not a person of any form of content creation.
Are you?
Now you are.
Yeah, I guess you could say you are now with these podcasts. Sure.
But like one of my dreams, I guess, was to just start like a channel to where I could have open discussions and not just play video games, but like actually go through the game and go like into depth of its like roots of its meaning, where they was coming from, and the interpretations that the artist put through that whole thing.
That's a very, very awesome way to do things, because a lot of people just play the games, they react to things, but to actually explicate, to interpret different things about the game, like from the developer's point of view, from how you view it, that's a competitive advantage, sir.
Oh
So,
yeah,
you
but
know,
I would love to be able to start deep diving into games and their meanings and their messagings and stuff like that, and
right.
do these deep dive discussions into these types of things. There's so many games I
Well,
want to talk about.
Mhm.
Oh,
if it's not too personal of a question, what's stopping you?
when I was growing up for the longest time, I had to take care of my
Uh,
Oh, here we
I
go
didn't
with the
have
garbling again.
yeah. A little bit of the fast forwarding
Hey,
again.
here we go.
All right.
Sorry about that.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm
it's
not quite
Okay,
sure what the
you're good.
issues are. I don't know if it's on my end. I don't know if it's different connections
no,
that
I
are
think
feeding
that might
into
be
it.
something to do with my laptop.
Uh,
If I don't shake the mouse, it seems to do that every once in
like
a
puts it
while.
into
So I'm just
hibernation mode or
have it
something.
like it's wanting to start that. So I'm gonna start shaking my mouse every 2 seconds.
Okay.
But no, when I
Okay.
was growing up, um, because of some legal issues, I was with my grandparents,
Ah,
and as I was growing up, they didn't couldn't stay in the best of health, and I had to start taking care of them, and so I lost more and more of my free time and had to spend more and more time taking care of them.
ah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, God bless you
I
for doing that,
was
sir.
actually in a very similar situation.
Yeah, family comes
Sorry to
And
first.
interrupt. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. There's a delay, and I don't know how we're gonna fix this. Maybe it's low latency issues or
Yeah.
something. But I'll do some research into it. I'm a freaking nerd when it comes to research, but yeah, we need to do something like where, like, if we were on a actual phone call, like a conference call, it would be perfect. It would be,
Well,
you know what I'm saying? So
right.
we'll have to look into
I
this.
actually, yeah, I was with you on that because I remember you brought this up to me earlier this week, and
Hmm.
the only reason I didn't go for it tonight was because Nick was joining, and
Right.
I don't know a good way to do it like a three-way call. But if we could work that out in the future, by all means, let's do that.
Well, I have three-way calling on my service, so all we have to do is just do a phone
Okay.
call, and then I can mirror my iPhone to the computer, and it'll be perfect. So,
yeah, and I
Okay.
have merged phone calling on my thing because I've been able to talk to my dad and my grandmother and
well, there
from
we go.
two separate phone calls. but
Yeah, I think that'll ultimately be
Well,
the
you know
best
what?
option. So,
Yeah, I agree.
but with my grandmother recently passing away and me moving back in with my parents now and me starting to actually have time for myself, I don't know. Like it seems like being on YouTube and doing deep dive discussions into the ideologies, the theologies of games would be really something I could really want to do.
well, it seems like it's a
Talking
passion
about
of
just
yours. You really enjoy it,
well,
and it helps your state of mind. So, I figured you should
well,
go
see,
for it, man.
see, I've always been like sort of heavy analytical, but I've never had an outlet to really
Ah,
talk to anybody about it. Because okay, when I was growing up, I was the fat kid in the neighborhood, so I
uh,
was like in my room playing Pokemans and Legos and video games, and
right.
it's hard for me to connect sociably with people.
I hear you on that. I do indeed.
I get that too. Yeah.
And it's always been hard. And Manny, it's weird because Aaron, I just met him randomly at Gamers Alley in Dallas, and we started hanging out. And I met you the one time, but I'm like, you're a friend, and I like hate talking with you, so let's go. And it's fun to talk to people, but I just don't have the chance
Right.
most of the time.
Right.
Well, I got to tell
Somebody,
you, you really
it's
give some
hard
good
to,
inputs. So,
but also at the same time, it's hard to put yourself out there too.
it is.
Anytime,
Especially
like
when you
at
don't know
least
how
for
to
me,
start.
like exactly, I have no clue how to do small talk or anything like that. I'd rather just dive into, hey, what's the difference between, narcissism and selfishness or selfishness,
Right.
things like that. That's much easier to talk to and get your thoughts out there that way. I don't want to know, hey, what's up? Who gives
All
a
right.
shit?
I'll interject really quickly. We have 20 minutes. I'm going to
Go
grab
for
me a gummy, Delta 9 gummy. But we have 20
Oh.
minutes here, so I'm going to get up and grab that. But um, let's
Time can
see.
stop being crazy.
Yeah. What all have we touched on here? Essentially everything we wanted to, but we're going to have to touch on a
Yeah.
couple of other things. Manic, I'm going to leave 10 minutes so that you can give your story, and then I'm going to give 5 minutes to wind it out. And then I'm going to do an hour after you guys leave with some Dreamcast. But I'm going to go ahead and grab my gummy, so I'll be right back. But
All right.
you guys go ahead and
Let me
keep
get on
the
my
dialogue
mythology
going if you'd
skill.
like. I'll be right back.
Let me talk a little bit of mythology before we get to your 10 minutes.
Sure. Yeah. Go
I
for it.
I I have studied a good bit of Greek mythology. I've read a lot about Greek mythology. The likelihood of me understanding a lot is very low. I know names, I know places, I know a few dates, but those are just generalization. But I have tried to learn as much of the Greek mythology as I can, and dude, its influences everywhere, even still to current day. Greek and
Oh,
Roman
Star Wars. Star Wars
everywhere.
really is just modern mythology at its
Yes.
core.
Well, that and trade regulations again, but
Yeah, and treasure, of course. Yes.
thank you, prequels.
Yes.
All right, y'all.
Yeah. Sorry, we started talking about mythology already.
Oh, I think that is our last topic, actually. So, Nick,
Yeah.
go ahead. You have the floor.
Okay, so which mythologies do y'all know the most about when it comes to our like ancient mythologies? Which do y'all think y'all know the most about?
I want to
A
lean
little
towards
bit
Roman
of both.
mythology.
Yeah. Roman, a little bit more than Greek. Although, I mean,
Or
God
Greek
of
is
War is
actually what
Greek,
I meant
right?
to say.
Yeah.
Zeus,
Uh,
Persephone, Hercules.
Okay, do you have the
yeah, I'm not
westernized mythology, or have you actually looked into the actual mythology?
I have not. And also, I would say
I have not.
Nordic, like Loki and Ragnarok.
Ah, I didn't even think of
Of
that.
Marvel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Marvel.
Yeah.
Okay, so essentially, our biggest exposure to Norse mythology is in part thanks to Marvel.
Popular
They
media.
were,
Yeah,
yeah,
I agree.
they revived those characters in a way that re-brought interest into those names, even though essentially within the source material, which we don't have anything of except for like two poems, we really don't have any information on the Norse mythology. We have names, we have some locations, but we don't have any clear idea as to where they exist within the realms of the tree of the nine realms or whatever you want to call it. There's actually
Hmm.
very little detail. And what's funny is if you look at the original like actual writings that we have, Loki looks more of like a benevolent trickster. Like he's gonna get you into some shit, but he's gonna help you while you're in that shit type of thing.
Right. Okay.
While
Okay.
modern
Yeah.
depictions of Loki had either portrayed him as super evil, like literally Satan, and that's because Christians, when they decided to take over and get rid of the pagans and rewrite history, they decided to get rid of the actual religion. Thank you, Christianity. That's part of the major reasons why we don't have as much uh, information on the Norse religion is because of the Christians and they didn't write anything down for a long time, but they damn made sure that you knew that they had boats.
So you think it's covered up? It's would you say that it's an interference to Catholicism and Christianity?
Okay, well, yes, because Christianity, when they decided that they became the big religion and spread everywhere, they literally rewrote everyone's history. And it's canonical. It is well written records, and there is evidence going back hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years where the Christians have demonstrably shown that they have altered a lot of people's history and religion back in the day.
I would agree with that.
So
What do you think about Islam? Do you think
Mhm.
that's kind of the same?
it is. All religions that get big enough end up becoming the same, regardless of what faith that they decree to. The problem is because when they get that big, humans can no longer control their greed and their sinfulness, and it just gets out of hand.
Mm.
It's the same with corporations. Once a corporation becomes so big that they no longer see person, the little person on person, they don't care about this.
Sorry, you're breaking up again.
Yeah. I'm going to
No,
look
sorry.
into this for you and also see if I can figure that out. I think you said it was your mouse. It's causing some type of an acceleration
it's my
there.
laptop that
Yeah.
I have. Yeah, it's my laptop. It seems like every once in a while I have to just move and keep the screen active or something.
Because when it's working well, it works amazing. But yeah,
Right, yeah.
I'll look into this as well because I'm I like these technical things, so that's something I'll look into as well and see what's going on here, why it does that.
Well,
And,
I'm on an old laptop.
uh,
This isn't really the best.
I got you.
Yeah. I'm still rocking it a PlayStation 4, a Nintendo Switch.
Hey, me
and
too. I got a PlayStation 4 and an Xbox
Hey, me
One.
3.
Got an
Yeah, I don't
Xbox
have
One
any
this
next
year.
gen stuff.
So
It's too damn expensive.
Well, oh yeah.
Like I want to play Baldur's Gate 3 so bad. but I
do
have
you
no way.
do you
Oh,
like
dude,
Baldur's
me
Gate?
too.
I want to play it so bad. Oh,
What do you
Me
think about
too. Oh my
Diablo?
gosh.
Diablo 4.
I am sad for the state of Diablo, but I'm
Yeah?
looking forward to Original Sin 2.
I wished it was
Divinity
like an
Original
actual
Sin, the next sequel.
third-person game. So
No, I like the top-down
I
dungeon crawling
don't.
adventure game. My problem with
I do
Diablo
too.
is they
You
don't
do?
know how to actually design in-game. Hello?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
you're
here.
here.
Okay. They don't know how to design in-game. They are far too willing to go wishy-washy on what they say they're going to do and what they actually do, and they're far too willing to just make you think you're getting far, but you're actually not. And they've made their games far too grindy and far too, oh, I gotta have this with this so I can have this perfect loadout and I can just go and kill all these things. And it's no longer about playing the game. It's more about what kind of build can I do and what do I need to do to get to that build as fast as possible. And
So it's a capitalistic spend money type of thing, or
no, it's let's make it as efficient as possible without putting anything that makes it fun.
mm,
Like it's all just become numbers. There's no game anymore. Yes,
yeah.
you have your pretty little icons, but they don't mean anything. You don't get story that means anything. Like, yeah, the story for Diablo has never been the greatest, but it was at least interesting. This is just, ugh.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't even feel like they're trying anymore. It's all just corporate market speech being spewed at us.
I like how you put
That's what
I
things.
get
Blizzard
that.
has become.
You're a very academic person as well, Nick, and I'm glad that this is an outlet for you. And aside from this, I really encourage you to do your own YouTube, which I would definitely support. But I think you're a very
Yes.
academic person, sir. But anyways, guys, we're running close here. We got about 11 minutes left. So we're going to have to kind of wrap it up here soon. I don't mean to put the brakes on, but you know what I mean? But
Hey, no, you got
Right.
you stuff you got to
Right.
do. I understand.
well, I keep it at 2 hours, and I think an hour for the podcast is pretty good. But Nick, I got to say, you're a very academic person in your own right. You're a poet if you didn't know it, but you're quite intellectually versed, sir. And I'm
Well,
glad
when you
that
live
this is
33 years
a.
stuck in your head.
I'm glad this is a platform for you to be able to interact and relate to others that are also intellectual and approach things intellectually and analytically and whatnot. So, are you just running a laptop, or do you have a desktop as well, or?
Just the laptop.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I'm a broke bitch.
Oh, that's all right, man. I'm gonna do some research for you though, and I'll report back. Maybe to Manic. I don't know if we're friends on Discord or not, but if we are,
We
you
are.
know, okay. But I'm gonna look up that issue. Why it's like a VHS tape when you fast forward it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what happens. So if you watch this back, you'll see it's like a fast forwarding. Somebody pressed the fast forwarding button.
It's interesting. I don't know what's going on, and I'm just like, ah.
Well, maybe I can gain some insights into it, but we got about 9 minutes, so Manic, I suppose it's about time for you to give your story here, and then I'll wind out our podcast. And
Oh,
go ahead, man.
boy.
Go ahead, Nick.
All right.
Very good story,
So-
by the way, sir. I
All
gotta
right, floor is
admit
mine.
that. Go ahead,
Okay,
Manic.
So, as I said earlier in the podcast, I've dabbled a bit into stand-up comedy. And 2 weeks ago tonight, I performed a gig a ways away from home, about 3 hours away. And it was a 15-minute set, and not to toot my own horn or nothing, but, beep, beep, I did good. So, after the 15-minute set was over, I snuck out of the back door into the parking lot just to be met like 5 feet away from the door was this random chick just standing there. And she's like, "Hey, Manny." She calls me Manny, like legit by name. And like, so I know she just saw me do this. And she is fangirling here. Like, I've never experienced this before. Like, this is the actual first time getting any kind of treatment from a complete stranger like that. Every other time, it's always been people I know being like, "Dude, good job," pat on the back and shit like that. But this is a complete stranger here. And she tells me her name. I'm not going to say it here. And she gives me her phone number. And she tells me, "Hey, next time you're in town, I got a place to stay. If you want to come and, stay the night with me, you can." Oh, shit. Ding dong. Okay, we're there. So, I'm a little weirded out by this, but I'm also riding a massive high because I just killed in front of this audience. And I mean, it's a 3 hour drive home. I'm like wrestling with my thoughts the whole time. But against my better judgment, when I do get home, I texted her. And I mean, she asked me to, right?
Right.
So, yeah, it goes well enough. So the next day at work, this is like noon, right? The middle of the lunch rush. I work in a restaurant. So my phone is going off. I mean, just zzz, zzz, zzz in my pocket. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening? And it's this chick who is sending me, she sent me like 10 different pictures of herself. There ain't no good way to say this. She's naked. She's nude. And like, I'm like, yep, that's a cooter. And I try to hide my embarrassment at work because I don't want anybody to know about this. I haven't told anybody. And like, it's like 2 hours later, I get home and I text back and I'm like, whoa, what the hell? And she explained like, "Oh yeah, I used to do porn a few years ago. I thought you'd like this." And she gave me her porn name, like legit. And like, I'm not gonna lie to y'all, I researched. It's her. It's definitely her. So like, I'm dealing with some like pretty complicated, conflicting feelings here because like I've never dealt with this before. I've never had a groupie before. This is new. This is new. And that's kind of where it ended there for a little bit. Like I left her on red after a little bit until yesterday. Yesterday morning, she reaches back out. She texts me and she's like, "Hey man, I'm sorry if I was a little bit too forward with the pics, but I'll wave it off like it's not a big deal." But she tells me like she really does want to get to know me and starts like asking me personal questions. And like I've had time to think about this now. It's been 2 weeks. And I tell her straight up, "Listen, you can ask me all you want to, but I ain't answering shit until you answer those very same questions about yourself." Like, I know nothing about this chick other than what she looks like, her first name, her porn name, and her general location. That's it. And she does exactly that. She gave me her full name, how old she is, what she does for a living, and she even like went into detail about the porn thing. Now, I'm not going to get into any of this because it's personal, and needless to say, it's all in the past and really doesn't apply now. So, like, as I'm actually talking to this girl, like for real, talking to her, I'm starting to kind of warm up to the idea that, hey, next time I'm in town, I might actually meet up with this chick. It's not outside the realm of impossibility here. So yeah, she asked me if she can call me, and yeah, I kind of agreed to that. And so we talked for maybe a half an hour on the phone. And like that's when I tell her, like, yeah, I used to do Twitch. I told her about the music thing I do, and most importantly, I told her the date I'm going to be back in her town, which is about a month from now. Unbeknownst to her, though, I plan on telling this exact story to that audience next time I'm there. And so the
I
routine
think you
is called
should.
Baby's First Groupie. I think so too. I think it's what's the worst that's going to happen, right?
Right.
She gets
I'm
pissed off and
still a
doesn't
little
want to speak
bit.
to me anymore.
I'm still a little bit. What's the word? Unsure, I suppose.
Apprehensive.
Apprehensive is a good one too. Yeah.
Tentative. Timid.
Yes.
Squeamish.
So yeah,
Worried.
I recorded
Indeed, those are all good
maybe
words.
a week ago. Maybe a week ago, I recorded this. Before she hit me up yesterday. Like that part about yesterday. That's 100% true and did happen. And this is really the first time I've actually talked about this publicly. But yeah, no, it's actually a comedy routine that I wrote about that night.
Right.
And like the whole thing was and still is very much like a roller coaster, right? Like we just talked like 2.5, 3 hours ago, and like, yeah, I think we just kind of have to wait and see what happens from there. But as far as I'm aware, she has no clue about the podcast. She knows my screen name, but I don't think she's done a deep dive. So
all I gotta
girl, if
say
you're
is just be
listening to this, I'm
careful
sorry.
because scamming, and especially with technology nowadays, and it's just gone to a level that is crazy. So just be careful. And I've also mentioned that
That's
too.
why
So
I'm so fucking nervous about this.
right. Go ahead, Nick. We got 2 minutes, guys.
It's not just a scamming type thing. We also have to look like, what is the mental health of this person that they're just...
That's what I thought. Like,
no fucking clue.
That's what I thought as well. Like,
No
normal
idea.
people don't do that. Normal people don't just immediately send photos like that. It's abnormal behavior.
Yeah.
So
I think that's abnormal,
like
but who knows?
that's why,
that might be the new normal. I've been out of society for so long.
maybe as
it's
well.
passed me by.
Sure.
Same.
I'm just an old man throwing his fist up in the air saying, "Damn you kids."
Get off my lawn, Billy.
Yep.
No, I get that. So I'm just like, I'm weirded out still, but I'm also like, having actually spoken to this chick on the phone for a little bit here, I kind of get it. Like, I've got an important backstory that I didn't have before. Yes. Yes, I have.
Okay. Well, that gives a little bit more credence.
Last night.
Gives a little bit more realism.
So,
I still say be careful, man.
Also,
they could just have... it could be a group of scammers that just have some chick call you. You know what I'm saying? Be careful, dude.
No, because I met this chick.
Oh, okay. You met her physically?
In person.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay.
She was there that night after the show.
All right. I feel better. I feel better now.
Yeah. She called me by name. She gave me her phone number. I now know her real name. And, I mean, there also no good way to say this. I mean, the pictures that she sent me, the NSFW ones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, her face is visible. Yeah, it's her. Like, there's no faking that. But like, I mean, I suppose there is, but
all I'm saying is be careful, dude. People be crazy.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah, bitches be bitches, y'all, for sure. I get it.
All right.
That's
50
for me.
Okay. So 50 seconds. That's going to round it out. So Lex says I'm going to do some Dreamcast demo discs after this, but I'd like to say, Mr. Manic Professor and Nicrowassassin. I think I got it right that time. So, alrighty. All right, guys. Well, this is it. So, 10 seconds left. But Very good talking with you guys, and hopefully next Friday, if you're game again as well, we'll
I
talk
should
about it.
be.
All right, we'll talk about it in Discord and work something
Okay.
out. But
All
Down
right.
if y'all want me to have me.
all right, Nicrowassassin. I just prefer you call you by your name, but anyways,
Micro's fine.
all right. Well, very good podcast, guys, and I'll let you know when
Oh
this
yes,
is
I feel much
uploaded.
better about this one.
All right, me as well. So I'll let you
All
know
right.
when this is uploaded, and very good talking with you, and we'll chat again here soon. So,
Excellent.
Peace.
All righty. Have a good night.
all right, guys, you as well. See you later. Good
Yeah.
podcast.
All righty.
All right, see you later, Manic. Alrighty, so that was Nicrowassassin and Master Manic Professor. I'm going to go ahead and do some Sega Dreamcast, and I will be right back. I have to use the restroom, so give me just a moment. I'll be right back in just a second.
Where is my mind? Where is my mind? Where is my With your feet in the air, your head on the ground. Try this trick and spin